You know what I'm saying? Don't let them harvest your energy to propagate voting. Okay. Now we're going to get to this. Now, when you understand the diametrical difference between the eukaryotic cell and the prokaryotic cell, a eukaryotic cell is basically the epitome of splice genetics, right? When you have splice genetics, that means that you don't have the mitochondrial DNA that connects your etheric core to the planet. So that means that you don't have a soul, you have a spirit, right? So when the spirit energy is being facilitated by the moon, the prokaryotic cell is the embodiment of prokaryotes, which is the first organism in the universe. That's within the infrastructure of the physiology of the black woman's genetics, right? So everybody doesn't have that mitochondrial DNA. Everybody doesn't have it. But it's one of those things where when it comes to the draconian juice, when it comes to many different things that subjugates and puts an encryption on your anatomy, it's a reverse of frequency to where it basically extracts and transmutes the prokaryotic cell to a eukaryotic cell. So that's why I say you got indigenous people living in an unnatural system, right? Because it changes up your physiology. If you was at the gathering of the masters, Dr. Ju Pukum, she was talking about putting a cast on your physiology. That's what this system does, right? Which is basically an encryption. She didn't go too deep into it, but when you're talking about a cast on your physiology, you're basically talking about the lunar light lock frequency that locks down your DNA, right? Because we all know that technological devices basically puts an encryption on your anatomy. That's what technology does. It locks down DNA to where you're not able to unlock those codons, right? Because when you unlock those codons, what happens? It connects you to the space-time continuum to where you're able to reverse the polarity of the conscious energy grid on the planet that basically dematerializes the grid system. So the more you wake up, the more is going to activate the sun, and it's going to activate the sun within you because we are connected to the planet etherically. So let's get to it. I got some super chats in here. Let me see. Appreciate the Queen sending out the 777 energy. And what are your thoughts on Brazil plane crash? So like I said, I only live about 5 hours away from Atlanta, Georgia. So no, I did not, get on no airplane. I'm not going nowhere I can't travel to. If I don't have control of my own destiny, you know what I'm saying, I'm not able to operate behind the wheel, I'm not going nowhere. But when it comes to, that plane crash, like I said, it's inevitable that the grid is going to shut down. And it's not only subjected to, plane crashes and things of that nature. If you have any type of nanotechnology within your physiology, all you got to do is, hit that big red button and it's going to shut down your whole physiology. There's a commercial that they put out maybe about a few years ago, and they were basically talking about, it basically demonstrated on how everybody just dropped dead when the grid went down. Right? Anybody ever seen that commercial? If you seen that commercial, put 888 to pay homage to the Lionsgate portal energy because it's still here. So if you've seen that, put 888 in there in the chat. But that commercial basically demonstrated that. So we all know that the World Economic Forum said it's inevitable that the grid is going to go down because we know that the far right bureaucratic system of the Republican Party, they are basically the epitome of a totalitarian government. So a totalitarian government is the precursor to a cybernetic dictatorship. So that's based on transhumanism. So they want to turn this system into a transhumanistic system. So that's why they came out. They're coming out with a movie on August 30th called Afraid, but it's really talking about the propagation of artificial intelligence, right? Because one thing you got to understand about artificial intelligence is basically a form of energy extraction, because artificial intelligence, all it does is the technological radiation extracts the neurons from your body and it uploads it into a neuromorphic cyber cloud. And when it's uploaded into a neuromorphic cyber cloud, that's when the archons can mimic the energy of the chosen people on the planet. Because when it comes to the archonic forces, they don't have the ability to create because they don't have a soul, right? You can only create if your etheric cord is connected to the heart chakra. So they don't have, emotional feelings and things of that nature when you're talking about the archons, right? So that's why they use technology, artificial intelligence to extract the energy to mimic humans, mimic the chosen ones, mimic the indigenous people. That's what that's all about, right? Because like I said, this is an energy extraction matrix. This is a better simulation of reality, right? That is being controlled by a holographic system that's being propagated by the magneto-hydrodynamic ascending gaps on the rings of Saturn that creates this holographic projection that's being extracted from Saturn and the moon. That's why they call it the Saturn moon matrix, right? Let me see. Let me get some more questions. But yeah, that's what this is all about. The more you wake up is going to break the spell. And that spell is the fermented dome. We're in the quarantine zone. That is where you're talking about the spiritual cutoff when you go to the book of Genesis in the Bible. That spiritual cutoff is what cut off your magnetism, right? MAG, right? When you look at the word magic, your magic is your magnetism. When you tap into the magnetism, this is where you can do psychometry, clairvoyance, levitation, telepathy. That's when you can tap into those energies. But as long as they got that fermented dome up, right, that is basically the embodiment of the spiritual cutoff. It's a technology that created that whole infrastructure for the archons. So we're going to get to some more questions. Let me see. We can get into some gang stalking because the more you see, the more, hold on. But free the bro, Rashad Jamal. I think I can't even find the question now. But it's a super track question. Terrace had expanded on the fascia. Yeah, Yaki, he touched on the fascia nervous system, right? So one thing, when it comes to the fascia nervous system, is connected to the neuromelanin by way of the melanocytes, which are basically intelligence molecules, because neuromelanin is the brain essential nervous system melanin that activates the piezoelectrical frequency within the 7 energy cortexes of your chakra system, right? So the electrical energy has a piezoelectrical frequency because we know when you understand the physiology of the indigenous people, they have magnetites and dendrites in the brain, which creates an influx of neurotransmitters and crystals to where you activate the Christ consciousness, right? So the fascia nervous system is basically the electrical force field that is basically around your whole nervous system. And your nervous system is basically the embodiment of your energetic morphic field. So the nervous system is basically the remote control to your whole energy field. That's what it's basically talking about, right? I can't go into that too much because me and Yakob was talking about that, because that's when he breaks it down from a dietary standpoint. That's where I'm going to come in with the metaphysics, right? So I don't want to get too deep into that transmission to yet. So let me see. Like I said, I'm up here. Y'all can ask me anything. We finna talk about everything tonight. Anything you want to talk about, brother? What is the 3 things you've been doing every day to level up? This is what I do. What I do, I always, first thing first, I write down my goals with a pencil. If I'm at my girl's house, that's different. I don't have, I ain't got my pencils and my notepad and stuff. But if I'm at home, first thing I do when I wake up is whatever I was dreaming about, I use a pencil. I don't use pen. I don't write. I don't put it on a computer or nothing like that. You use a pencil because graphite is a derivative of carbon. So this is a form of, from a metaphysical standpoint. So when you write down your goals, when you want to write down something, it's going to put you in a state of tunnel vision because the graphite energy, which is a derivative of carbon, it has a certain frequency to it to where it's able to manipulate the ethers. So that's one thing that I do. I write down my manifestations. Like I said, I go to the gym, I go in that steam room. Like I said, you got to look at, you can't be, when it comes to this great awakening process, you can't be one dimensional. Get massages, you know what I'm saying? Because we got energy blockages on our physiology. Go in the gym, go to the steam room, go to a sauna. You know what I'm saying? This is another way to upgrade yourself to where you don't have those energy blockages and those brain falls to where you can tap into the apex of consciousness, right? That's what it's all about. It's like I said, it's not all about just meditating every day and with your crystals. You really got to do some work. You got to go through a process of self-realization, right? That's when you get into the spirit of Melchizedek. As I was telling y'all before, I already broke that whole thing down, right? It's all about self-realization. Oh yeah, another thing that I do, like I said, I read every day. Like I said, you work out more than you read, you're still out of shape. Like I said, you gotta make time. I don't care if it's 30 minutes a day. Make time to, understand whatever you want to study, right? That's what it's all about. We can't just be watching YouTube videos. You got to become a scholar, and be careful of what you're reading. Because a lot of times you got to study them in order to understand what's going on. Because the great majority of the books that I got, it's all talking about satanic worship. I got grimoire books. I got occultic books. I got books by Pascal Beverly Randolph. I got books talking about the Rastafarians. I got books that's talking about all types of shit. But like I said, in order to facilitate the knowledge, you got to understand the enemy intuitively, right? Let me see. Y'all got any more questions? Let me see. So like I said, you got to tap into the form of equilibrium, because what is equilibrium? Equilibrium is balancement, and balancement is God, right? You can't tap into the God frequency until you level up. Let me see. Okay, the red star and the blue star. The red star and the blue star, this is basically a part of the propagation when it comes to the Holy Tablets by Dr. Malachi Z. York, Freedom Master Teacher. And the red and the blue star are basically coming from the tri-solar system of planet Risk. So this is also acclimated to the Hopi prophecy when you're talking about the red star Kachina and the blue star Kachina, right? And the red star Kachina has the ability to go through a process of a supernova. This is why they coming out with the movie Beetlejuice. I broke this down about the red sun and the blue sun in the last transmission that I put out when you're talking about the 888 Lionsgate portal, right? Because they know that this planet is going through a form of mastery. And we also going to have another 88 portal coming up when I think it's August 26, 2024. That's another 888, right? And these portals is basically a funnel of energy, right? It's a funnel of gamma radiation that's hitting the planet that's manipulating the simulation. That's when you get an interface transition. So when you have interface transitions, right, when you get these energies from the blue sun and the red sun, these energies is causing a vibrational frequency on the planet to where people are starting to have deja vu. They starting to have things like the Mandela effect. When the conscious energy grid system is being manipulated, that's when people have all that, forms of deja vu. That's what happens. Because the grid system is being manipulated. Exactly. You got another 888 coming up. Right? Because when you understand that the universe is mathematical, right? The universe is mathematical, and you can show and prove by way of that through gematria or Vedic gematria, because this holographic universe that we're living in is being facilitated by the energy of the moon, which is a quantum satellite. It's an artificial celestial megastructure that has a supercomputer that controls the simulation. So that's why everything you do on this planet is a form of a soul trap, right? You love food so much to the point it basically takes over your emotions, soul trap. You love religion and Jesus so much to the point where it takes over your emotions, soul trap. That's because, like I said, you're supposed to use your emotions as a navigation system to reverse the polarity of the energy extraction matrix. That's why I said you got to use the matrix in order to get out, right? Let me see. Okay. James, let me see. We finna get to a lot of questions. I've been wanting to talk to y'all because for some reason, when I try to go live on my computer, when I'm just doing a demonstration by myself, all of a sudden I have all these manipulations and things of that nature. And I got good Wi-Fi. I talked to FaZe when I was in Atlanta, and we're gonna do something again. So shout out to that brother. That's one of the bros right there. Okay, let me see. So did you hear about the data breach back in the No, I did not hear about that. I did not hear about that. But everything is being infiltrated. Everything is being infiltrated. Okay, I got a super chat. Let's see what y'all talking about. Salute to Catalea. Can you tell us about your opinion? Okay, whatever they got, whatever they're gonna do, just like me and Rob was talking about. Me and Rob was talking for a long time. We chopped it up, and this is one of the very first times I was able to connect with that brother. I had time, he had the time, and we talked on the phone for about 3 or 4 hours last night. And in my opinion, whatever they got to do, they got to get started right now, right before the election, and just
going through a little change. But I appreciate everyone who's been supporting. And we got ourselves the one and only LifePath 7 Bdell1014. And we're going in, we're talking about melanin, we're talking about the heat, we're talking about the sun, the saunas, on the importance of saunas, and we're also going a little bit down the rabbit hole when it comes to things esoteric type, movies. But going forward, Bdell, you said for women or anyone who's emotional to use their navigation system.
Yeah, use
so
it as
does that mean use it as a what?
Yeah, use your emotions as a navigation system. That's how you got to use it. You got to use it to navigate through the matrix, not to be subjugated by the matrix. Because what's the first thing women do, you know what I'm saying, or anybody who doesn't have their emotions intact, the first thing they do when they get in a relationship, they busting car windows, they slashing tires, they throwing tomatoes at you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. They doing anything that's basically diabolical because, like I said, your emotions is going to deceive you every time. They're going to deceive you. Right. Because this is how you know emotions is not in a state of righteousness, because it becomes toxic. A person would tell you that the sky is green if the color blue hurts their feelings. Because, like I said, your feelings is acclimated to a certain emotion. So by way of the emotional energy, it becomes a form of toxicity, because then you believe in things that don't make sense. You say things that don't make sense. You do things that don't make sense, which is a form of demonic possession. So by way of the emotional energy emotions that's connected to the energy of the moon, the lunar cycle, this is where these entities are able to control you within the simulation by way of the emotional energy that's connected to the physical plane and materialism on planet Earth.
Yeah, I asked that question because astrologically, You know, you got some people who are water signs who naturally they emotional, they get moody, you know, or sometimes people can't control that emotions that they feel. They get moody, they get a little bit jealous, they get envy, you know, they get sad, depressed, sentimental. Like they said, water signs are more sentimental, meaning like they're a little bit more darker, you know. So I had to ask that question just to help, you know, my fellow water sign friends get out of those traps, you know, because myself, I feel good when I'm in a logical state. I know I can study, I can research, I can think things, I can solve problems, that practicality. Whereas if I'm in an emotional state, everything's chaos. Emotions is chaos. It's chaotic. When you're emotional,
You like, you ain't text me back. Like, bro, she's at work. You know she at work. You know, logic would tell you she's not on break, bro. She's at work. You know what I'm saying? But emotional man, she ain't text me back. She must be with another dude. Like, you ain't supposed to be thinking like that. That's an effeminate energy. That's why I told you, by way of the emotional energy, like I said, it subjugates us on a spiritual level. So, like I said, that's what, you know, the propagation of right knowledge, when you're talking about Dr. Malachi York, right knowledge is the epitome of righteousness. Right knowledge is logic, sound right reasoning. So when you're not operating in sound right reasoning, you're operating from a place of emotion. When you're operating from a place of emotion, that's where demonic entities are able to control you. You know what I'm saying? They be like, oh man, she ain't text me. You know, that's, you know, you're not supposed to be operating like that, bro. You're supposed to be looking at everything from a very rational standpoint.
yeah. They say blue is good for that too.
What
Blue is wearing blue crystals.
That's my favorite
blue, right?
color.
Oh
Blue's
yeah.
Color. Mm-hmm.
Wow. I like blue too. I love y'all get some blue crystal. Blue is real good for you, obviously on communication, but also calming. Just calming things down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what about people who say, you know, being, you know, toxic masculine? They say that you can be too logical to where, you know, you have a woman and she's saying, yo, you're not emotionally available. You're not here for me. You get a lot of this. Because I got this myself. I've heard other guys say that women will be like, they're emotional. Women will tell a guy that you're emotionally unavailable. You're never open.
That's a good question. That's a good
Yeah.
question.
Do you feel like a man can be too logical?
No, because logic is going to put you in the right state of mind every time. Because this is what logic does. Like, you're able to delineate, okay, if I'm in, like, this is what if I'm in a room full of women, if I'm in a room full of hoes, by way of my emotional energy, I'm going to be subjugated by that nature, because I'm not operating from a place of consciousness to where I supersede my nature to where I'm not going to cheat on my woman. Right. So that's what emotions do. So now, like, when you do have a consciousness, that activates right knowledge. So when you activate right knowledge, now I supersede my nature to not go fuck on another woman because I'm tapped in. I'm not gonna, you know, because I know logically I have a good woman at home, so I'm not gonna sacrifice my emotions for a good time. I'm not gonna.
Right. But wouldn't that?
I'm not gonna sacrifice a good thing for a good time.
Wouldn't that be hormones though? Because if you want to sit with another woman, wouldn't that be you having that sexual urge?
Yeah, it's still an emotion. It's still
that's an emotion.
It's all acclimated to emotions. It's, you know what I'm saying.
Okay.
It's all connected to your feelings. You know what I'm saying. Like, you know what I'm saying. It's all connected to it. You know what I'm saying. So that's what it's all about. It's one of those things where you gotta be conscious enough to where you supersede your nature. That's mastery. Mastery is righteousness. Everything in the universe moves on a logistical order. Anything that operates in logic and rationality has an order to it, has boundaries. If you don't have any boundaries, you're not spiritual. You know what I'm saying? If you're not able to have discipline, you're not spiritual. You know what I'm saying? Because that's where you supersede your nature. So what I tell people all the time, they think that, oh, Black Lives Matter, I love everybody. That's not spirituality. Right. That's false.
You mind if I say one experience?
What?
So I had an experience where, you know, I met a woman like 2 months ago, and you know, she's spiritual, a Reiki healer. You know, she does it all, but she's, you know, sexually liberated. So she believes that, you know, everyone deserves the love, you know. So she was like, she told me that, you know, that's just part of her nature, that she's just
No,
sexually liberated.
no,
And
see,
she said love is unconditional, but you got conditional love. You got conditional love, you got unconditional love. And she was basically saying she's on the highest. But I was like, what? I didn't understand it. But what do you have to say about that?
see, the thing is, this is where people in the conscious community, they begin to negate scientific evidence through analytical data. So now, when you look at a sexually liberated woman, right? A sexually liberated woman is a masculine woman, and I'm gonna prove it to you, because you know she may operate in her femininity according to the aesthetic, but she's operating from a place of masculinity, because when you sleep with a lot of men, that creates a microchimerism. A microchimerism is basically the personification of warrior sperm. So when you sleep with many different men because you're sexually liberated, what happens is the microchimerism travels up to the brain and rewires the neurotransmitters. Once it rewires the neurotransmitters, that's when you get the whole concept of thinking like a man. Because if you understand, all women who lay down with a lot of dudes, what they do, they think like men. All right, I need to get me somebody else tonight. I need to go lay down with this. I need to go lay down with that one. So when you also understand the esoteric word of the prefix of the word liberation, which is liber. Liber is a demonic entity. So to be sexually liberated is to be sexually demonic.
Wait. You said libero is a demonic entity?
Liber, like liberation, the suffix of the
Liber.
word, the prefix of the word liberation
Wow.
comes from the
That
word.
is,
So
bro,
sexually
etymology.
liberated. Yeah. So you got to get into the
Etymology
words
is
like,
crazy, bro.
yeah. So
Yeah.
you
Oh
got
my
to,
God.
so one thing people got to understand is like that's what spirituality is. It's all about not being tricked. You don't get tricked by, once you study the etymology of certain words, when you get into the science. So you can't negate science. So like I said, when you understand the science and you compile it with spiritual rituals and stuff like that, that's when you tap into your true power. But like I said, it has nothing to do with, you know, just, oh, I love everybody, I'm liberated. That's false light. You know what I'm saying? True spiritual people are very stern. They very they cultivate boundaries so much to the point because they understand that energy transfer is real. Anybody who understands the mechanisms of energy transfer,
Mm.
they will know that, hey, I ain't finna lay down with this person because he probably got, his nervous system is probably compromised. You know what I'm saying? Even worse, his I forgot what they call it. He might have a chemical imbalance. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's gonna throw off my pH balance. Like, it's
Yeah.
a multitude
Yeah.
of things. You know what I'm saying? So
Acidic levels. Right.
yeah,
Right.
because you know what I'm saying. You got some women.
They might have an STD. I mean,
Yeah, but here's the thing though. You got a lot of women, you know, who are sexually liberated, you know, and they negate that, you know, a lot of these dudes, man, they eating Big Macs. They, you know what I'm saying, they eating all the McDonald's. So what is that doing to your womb? You know what I'm saying? That's like
making it more
putting,
acidic.
yeah, that's like putting some lawnmower gas, no, some lawnmower oil inside of a BMW. You know what I'm saying? Like, you letting anybody, you know what I'm saying, you let any type of oil just get up in, you know what I'm saying, your womb, you let anything just get up in you, anything, because you sexually
Yeah.
liberated.
Yeah.
Really? That's what I
Yeah.
said. Spirituality is about superseding your nature by cultivating boundaries. You got to have
Boundaries.
boundaries,
Yes.
and you got to have discipline.
Yeah. Boundaries. I like how you say that. I really like how you said that. I was talking to myself, and you know, boundaries allows people to. It allows you to protect your energy more,
Mm-hmm.
and allows you to filter who comes into your life. You know.
So some people to be like, you know, I'm just saying, because I've been around them, like the especially like the ones that are, you know, the liberals, the liberal type of women, like they got the whole aesthetic, the they
Right.
either have the nappy fro, and they have the blonde hair, and they got the septum piercing, and then they got the crystals, and then they doing yoga, and they hang out with everybody, and you know what I'm saying? They
Right. There's a
no
lot of
matter,
those.
like, I'm a
Yeah.
Christian, I'm this, I'm that, I'm for uh the colorful flag rights. They do everything. You know what I'm saying? That's not that's not true liberation. Like I said, that's false light.
False
Anytime you
light.
see somebody who's tapped into the aesthetic of that energy, that's demonic possession, bro. Because like I said, true spiritual energy is where you establish boundaries. You got a lot of shit that's
So you
within this
start
world.
you start seeing how serious it is.
Yeah. Because
This
you know
shit
what
is serious.
I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where I think it goes into, like, they say liberal is also worldly. If you are if you're sexually liberated, you're just a worldly person. I mean, you're just a part of the world. And you also don't see how serious it is, because you have, like, isn't like 50% of the world casual, superficial, short pace, short term in the cities, club life. You got most of those people who are on a casual, superficial level, or what you want to call surface level. But once you start to really wake up, I agree on you, because you start to see things that you should take it serious. Like, everything you put in your body, you should take it serious. You should take the person that you sleep with serious. Whereas a casual person, they like, man, life, freedom, freedom, life, freedom, freedom. They
Like
might.
I've seen spiritual women. I've seen spiritual women, so-called spiritual women. They lay down. They messing with cops. You know what I'm saying? They don't care. It's like they just like, well, he has good energy, so I'm gonna talk to him. You know what I'm saying? They messing with Freemasons. You know what I'm saying? They doing all types of stuff. They have no type of boundaries. They just messing with people based on the energy that they feel at that moment of time. I feel like energy, you know what I'm saying? Like, but energy in itself can be deceptive if you're not in your right state of mind to where you're able to see beyond the illusion and the bullshit that's being facilitated by the simulation. So it's one of those things where, you got to activate the supreme spiritual eye to read energy. That's what's, you know what I'm saying? Because once you're able to truly read energy by being logical, not emotional, but logical, once you're able to truly read energy, that's when you tap into the esoteric language of, okay, I'm not seeing these people, you know what I'm saying, based on what they look like or how they look. I'm reading their energy now. You know what I'm saying? Now you can go in a room and you can basically read the room just by reading the energy. Oh, I don't belong here. These ain't my people. You know what I'm saying? You don't need a damn book to read to understand that.
So you feel like spiritual women, do you feel like they should show their bodies a little bit, as that just makes them feel more free? Or do you feel like they should cover up? Because a lot of people will say, like, a traditional spiritual woman should cover up a little bit more. What do you think?
I think you should cover up, to be honest, because being dressing scantily clad and highly promiscuous, I should say, it's all connected to a form of patriarchy. Patriarchy is the epitome of the exploitation of sexual energy. So, with that being said, your sexual energy is supposed to be used for spiritual purposes. Because as I told you before, if women are able to control their sexual energy by way of the aesthetic and by way of actually doing the course of having sex, that energy you can control and manipulate the weather with it. So like I said, it's one of those things where women have to, control their sexual energy, control their sexual nature in order to tap into their true power. You know what I'm saying?
That's why I learned that.
Okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say you're right on controlling that, because I've seen some women let the sexual energy control them. I didn't realize that sexual energy is uncontrollable in women. Like, it can, if they start letting going crazy, it starts to control them. They start to look at it as power. I've heard certain women tell me that sex magic is very powerful, which it has its part, but they'll use it literally every day, and they'll convince.
They use it as an excuse. See, sex rituals. When you do a sex ritual, you're not actually supposed to release, because that cosmic energy that collaborates with the cosmic radiation of ether. When you're about to climax, when and your girl having sex, y'all supposed to not release. You're supposed to use that sexual energy, and that power has so much potency to it. You're supposed to hold that energy and put your tongue at the roof of your mouth and think about things that you want to manifest, because that energy in itself, the extraction of the sexual energy, is going to connect with the ethers to where it's going to be in a state of manifestation. Because once you change your mindset, you change your reality, and that reality becomes a form of magnetism. So that magnetism in itself is how you cultivate your sexual energy by changing up your mindset about what sex is. You're supposed to use sex for manifestation. So this is how you can create a baby. You can create your own reality by way of your sexual energy when you're tapped into it.
Okay, so that particular individual, they also said that a man semen retention doesn't work for everyone. Do you think this is true, Bdell?
Nah. He just, like I said, he's an emotional man. So one thing people see, that's only acclimated to males. There's a diametrical difference between a male and a man. Now, a male is an individual who hasn't mentally and spiritually fortified himself enough to become a man, because he's not able to supersede his nature to where he doesn't have the discipline to where he doesn't have sex with a lot of women. Right? So that's all based upon mental discipline. Mental discipline, that is basically the whole epitome of mastery. Once you master your sexual energy, once you master anything that's connected to external stimulation, that's when you tap into your true power. Same thing with the woman. A woman, there's a diametrical difference between a woman and a female. A female is an individual who hasn't emotionally fortified herself enough to be a woman.
So you said that a woman, she can control, the weather grid when they hold their sexual energy. What about a man? What can he do when he holds his sexual energy?
He can create. He's able to create. So like I said, because your sexual energy is connected to the ethers. So because your sexual energy is how you raise up that kundalini energy that sits at the base of the spine. And it goes into the 34th ventricle of the brain, and it activates the hypothalamus gland, which is the master gland, the crown chakra. So that sexual energy is booming out of the crown chakra and collaborating with the ethers.
This is pretty advanced.
Yeah, it's a little bit. Yeah,
it's a little advanced. Like, some people know about this, some people don't. But people don't understand that our bodies are like, we can fast, we can sweat, we can meditate, we can astral project, we can remote view, we could do a lot of things that people don't really know about. But NPC thinks that
it's crazy though, because it's not a coincidence. I just got to download. It's not a coincidence that what they call sex in pornography, they call it XXX. XXX, you know what I'm saying? I think that's acclimated to the chromosomal structure of who we are on this planet. Because with the woman, she got 2 X chromosomes. And I think initially, this is just my opinion, not based on nobody's research. This is just, probably won't find it in the book or whatever. This is just based on my opinion. I believe that when a woman is tapped into her true divine energy, she has the ability to activate another X chromosome, where she has 3 X chromosomes, because the woman is the true spiritual device on the planet.
Right. They have that. They have that E gene that have that E gene that we don't have.
But that's just my opinion. So it's not a coincidence, because they could have called it. Why they didn't call pornography ZZZ? Why they call it XXX? Why is that? They could have called it any other letter in the alphabet.
You're right. Yeah, you are right with that.
So yeah, that's just my perspective on that.
Wow, that is crazy. Going deeper, how long do you feel like a man should hold his energy? Do you feel like he should go with the flow, or you feel like he should hit like a 3-year mark, take a break?
No, because when you put certain timestamps and mandations on anything that's connected to the material plane, because as I told you before, time is an artificial construct. So it's one of those things where you got to go with the flow of the energy. If you feel like it's right for you and you have the discernment to decipher and use your intuition, I feel like I can lay down with that one. Like, you know, you got to use your, like I said, use your emotions as a navigation system. You can't just be like, you know, in 5 months, I'm going to release. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, because sometimes, you know, expectations lead to devastation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you never put like no mandations on nothing. Just gonna just be like when I go on a fast, I don't be like, man, I'm gonna fast for this amount of days. I'm be like, I'm just fast until I tap out. I'm just, because some people, like I said, you know, I don't eat every day. Some days I just be like the same thing. It's like that's how you control your emotions, because you're not subjugated by time. Because some people feel like there's a time to do everything. Some people really eat 3 meals a day because they supposed to. Oh, I'm supposed to eat lunch at 12 p.m. You know what I'm saying? But that's a matrix, bro. That's artificial. That's something that came along with the simulation.
That's social norms.
Yeah, those are social.
Yeah, that's following social norms.
Break out of the social norms by way of tapping into the true spiritual energy by going with the flow of the energy of the planet. So what happens is, what I do is, I eat when I feel like it. I don't care what time it is. If I'm hungry at that time, or if I'm not, I only eat when my body tells me to eat something. I don't eat because it's 5 p.m. We're supposed to be having supper. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I used to use the Zero app, fasting apps, but I stopped using all those apps. I just started fasting off, you know, the naked eye, just off my gut. You know, when I feel like it, that's when I eat. That's when I break it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's better when you do it like that.
Mm-hmm. That's the best way. That's the best time. You know, that's the best way you tap into your energy. You know what I'm saying? To where you're not subjugated by the societal norms, to where you break free from the energy extraction matrix, which is cultivated by a form of a simulation, to where it creates, you know, artificial constructs of time. So everything in this realm is basically artificial and superficial. So it's one of those things, like I said, it's one of those things where, you know, it creates a certain perception. Like, you know, just like this is the whole epitome of a matrix. You know, you graduate high school, you go to college, you graduate college, get a big house, white picket fence, you get married, you know, you go on vacations, and you know, you got the dog, you got 2 kids, a boy and a girl. Like those are thought forms of the matrix system. You know, that's how you break free when you see beyond the illusion, because all that stuff is galvanized by the energy of time.
Yeah. It pisses some of us off. Just the seeing the social norms, seeing how everything is just like school, college, work, school, college, work. It's like
you become a robot. Like you, like you know what I'm saying? Like, get up, gotta go to work. You know what I'm saying? Even though I work, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I have a lot more flexibility because I told you, I don't think I told you, but I'm an engineer. I'm a thermal engineer. So, so it's not one of those things where I'm not being micromanaged, or you know, I don't have somebody. Like, I do what I'll do. I'm on my phone when I want to be on my phone.
Right. You know, you have that freedom.
I have freedom. You know what I'm saying? So, because if I had like a regular 9 to 5 and I'm sitting at a desk all day, I would have been tapped out the matrix a long time ago. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, with me, you know what I'm saying, still working, I use it as a navigation system, and I also use it as a form of, because I'm to the point now when it comes to consciousness and spirituality, I'm to the point where I want to build things. I want to build things that combats the energy that subjugates us on a spiritual level. So that's why a lot of times, like, you know, I take mental notes on the things that I build at work and stuff that I do at work, because all those things are basically incorporated into how you build certain spiritual monolithic structures. You know what I'm saying? That's a form of engineering, spiritual engineering. So the same thing, I want to actually start building stuff. You know what I'm saying? I want to get into that. I want to, you know what I'm saying, create an invention or something, you know what I'm saying, to where I can, you know, produce some type of free energy. That's the mindset I'm at. So that's going to be my next goal for within the next, you know, 5 years. I want to create something to where I don't want to just talk. I want to do something. So with me being an engineer, it cons me understands the mechanisms of what certain machines and certain additives and certain things, you know, to where you can create something. So
Right.
what I'm doing.
I mean, it makes sense that
Yeah.
you are an engineer because you to be an engineer, you have to be like really hands on, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. It make I definitely see that. So going on to the next question, do you work out your core like when you
Oh
go
yeah,
to the gym?
yeah. Oh yeah, most
So
definitely.
what do you think about the core being like that heater of your body? You can use your core. A lot of people say like you got to work out your core when you go to the gym because your core is like really responsible for really heating up your body and heating up also that melanin because it
Mhm.
gets hot. What do you think about that?
Yeah, because when you activate the core, it activates the solar plex, and the solar plex is the foundation of the candida enzyme. So when you activate the candida enzyme, that's how you activate the lymphatic system, to where you
Mm,
flush out all certain energies that's basically impure to the body. So it creates a thermogenic, and the thermogenic is I broke down the nomenclature title of ether. Ether is electrical energy, thermodynamics, hydrodynamics, electromagnetic radiation, and resonant energy, which is the foundation of antimatter. Antimatter is the carbon. So when you activate all those things, you activate the thermogenic principle within the solar plex. Solar plex is going to help you activate everything within your genetical structure. It heats up the body because I feel like when I'm working out, when I'm doing like crunches and stuff,
yeah,
my body gets so hot. You know what I'm saying? Just
yeah. That's
working
why I
out.
love working out. Yeah, like some people don't work out their core. They might do legs, upper body, all types of things, but they forget the core. Whereas your core gives your strength to do a lot of the daily things. You know what I'm saying? Keeps your posture better. That's why the core is like, even like if you look at the ship, the core of the ship is what really keeps it going. That's like the brain. So when you work out your core, you're working out the brain. Like you say, you're
Yeah,
working out
yeah,
certain.
that's a fact. Yeah, we got three brains. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You got the stomach, you got the heart, because the heart, when you study neurocardiology, it has neurons in it. And plus, the magnetic field of the heart is 1,000 times more intrinsic than the magnetic field of the brain because the heart sends messages to the brain by way of intuition.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's yep.
Mm-hmm. So there is a metaphysical connection to that. Let me get some
Yeah,
water.
that's crazy. Yeah, working out your core is very metaphysical. A lot of the times, I recommend us watching or even brothers and sisters watching. If you do want to get through some problems, just do a core workout. You'll be surprised how a core workout can really make you get through some problems. Because what you're
Most
doing, you're
definitely.
burning away all that energy stuck. Because we get emotions stuck on our core. We get emotions stuck on
Facts.
our body, and sometimes it gets stuck on our core. So when you work out your core, you're like you're like lighting your core on fire.
Mm-hmm.
And you already know fire just burns through
So,
things.
mm-hmm.
You said the
And then
movie Soul?
I said putting that torch to the soul, it activate, it
Yeah.
ignite the soul.
Yep.
Oh yeah, one thing I want to tell people is important. Uh, During the time of the solar eclipse, you should also detox and fast.
Okay.
Try if you can. Try to go do no food. If you feel like you do have to eat, do like some smoothies, some juicing during the time of the solar eclipses.
When
The
is the next
next
solar eclipse?
April 8th.
Okay. Um.
Fast and don't eat nothing, and then go to these ancient sites that you have in your city. You got mounds. Some cities got pyramids. So if I lived in Atlanta, if I lived in Georgia, I'd go to Stone Mountain during the solar eclipse. Fast, go to Stone Mountain. But where I'm going to go, we got mounds. This place called Angel Mounds, and the mound is basically a micro version of a pyramid.
mm,
That's basically what it is. So if you want to absorb these energies that's coming in, because a solar eclipse is the return of the ancestral energy. That's what a solar eclipse is. That's what it
wow.
basically is. So in order to receive that energy from the ancestors, is one of those things where you gotta make your vessel open to it. You know what I'm saying? And do it with, you know what I'm saying? And if you can, if you're single, you know what I'm saying, go in and do it by yourself. But if you got a counterpart, you know, get a divine feminine or get a divine masculine, and y'all go out and meditate or something, and so y'all can receive these energies coming in from the solar eclipse. Because like I said, you when you watch the movie, the third Matrix movie, the newest one that came out, in order for Neo to get to the next level, he needed that divine feminine in order for him to pull himself out the Matrix. So the divine feminine and the divine masculine, they got to work in tandem. They got to work in synergy in order to leave this realm. That's what they got to do. So the same thing actually takes place when you're absorbing these energies that's coming in from the solar eclipse.
Yeah,
so,
I had made a video back and I said that, you know, you find the right divine feminine, she makes you make sound decisions. Because, you know, their intuition when they're more evolved is on point. Like our intuition as a man, even me, I'm spiritual. I meditate every day, but a woman who meditates every day, she still got that. Like she still got that Eve gene. You know what I'm saying? So her intuition is gonna supersede mine's. You know what I'm saying? So when you get the right evolved woman, you got someone who's also reading between the lines of every decision you're making.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
So like I said, man, it's one of those things where you just got to get the right woman to do that stuff with, because we living in a time right now by way of instant gratification. The woman, she is subjected to the sleep spell because, you know, her emotions is connected to everything as far as like material. So you got to get a woman who is able to understand the art and the principle of detachment, because when you understand that mechanism, you know, that's when you can tap into your true spiritual energy to where you're not subjugated on a material level. So that's why you got to get a woman. It's very hard nowadays to find a woman who isn't, she's not brainwashed. She's not a brainwashed sheep that's going along with the societal norms of the matrix system. So once you find a woman like that, you got to keep her, bro. I made a post about that, you know, yesterday on Facebook.
Yeah, don't if you effort with that woman, bro, I don't think you're gonna, like, you might find another one, but maybe like 5 years, you know, but it's hard to find highly developed, evolved women, bro. That's a fact.
Especially in the location where I'm at. The most of the women where I'm at, they're fast asleep, because the city where I'm at is more it's really conservative. It's a mixed city. It's one of those things where a lot of people here, they're not tapped into the authenticity of true spiritual energy. They it's either they just, everybody here is a Christian or they're Christians, and so it's kind of hard for you to, you know, find a woman who isn't tapped into true spirituality. So that's why I said,
do you feel like you can maybe transition a woman to become spiritual if you find a Christian woman?
So I'm a firm believer of not manipulating people's timeline.
Okay, so you don't want to like change their beliefs.
Yeah, I don't do that. That's like I don't do what Christians do. Christians, they be like, "Come on, convert to Jesus. You going to hell." I don't do stuff like that. Like, you wouldn't know. A person wouldn't know what I know unless they actually like came up to me and talked to me. I don't go around talking to people like this is how I know that, you know, I'm tapped into my true divine purpose, because I'm not a person that actually gets on camera. Like, it took me a lot when I made my first video. It took me a lot, like, but some tell me, like, you are sitting on information. It's time to make video.
Right. But we were talking about that.
Yeah.
You being a 7-2.
Yeah, I'm very quiet. A lot of people, you know what I'm saying? Some people, like, who live in my city, who grew up with me or whatever, they know that I'm very quiet. And some people are like, man, you got YouTube? Like, I'm like, if I'm one of those people, like, if I'm in a room, you wouldn't even know I'm in there. That's how quiet I be. But, you know what I'm saying? But because of, you know, by way of social media and for me to put out the edification, you wouldn't know that because I got to talk to people, you know what I'm saying? Like, so sometimes for me, you know what I'm saying, I'm still dealing with it. I take breaks in between when I'm putting out videos because it's so energy draining for me to be speaking. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes I'd be like, man, like I need to chill out. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not even a talkative person like that. You know, so
Yeah. So you're
you know.
saying you as a 7, and you get drained when you speak a lot.
No, I wouldn't say I get drained when I speak a lot. It's just energy draining because you dealing when you get on the screen, you're dealing with multiple energies, man. You get people watching you, bro. Like
Right. You don't know who's watching. Right.
it's an
Yeah.
amalgamation of energy. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, and then you're just dealing with other external forces on top of that. So, like I said,
Right.
that's how I know. Like I'm one of those people, man. Like somebody come up talking to me in person, I try to cut the conversation quick because I'm an
Yeah.
introvert. I don't like talking to people.
Yeah. That's how it
Yeah,
is too. Facts. Yeah.
yeah, I'm an
You gotta have just like Divine Insight said. You gotta have heart to put yourself out there. You do. You gotta have a certain
introvert.
heart, a certain sacrifice. And even going to Divine Insight, he also did say one thing about the cold. Anything cold is bad. This is why troll, when they aim, they say freeze. You
Yep.
ever notice how they say that?
Mhm.
Did you ever study the etymology of that?
Nope. Yeah, I
Yeah,
haven't studied that. Nope.
that's something that that's an insight he found out, and I was like,
But there's
damn.
something connected to it. But I am the epitome of an introvert. I don't have a lot of friends by choice. You know what I'm saying? I just don't. My dad, what I'm saying, the way I grew up, he always told me to create my own autonomous infrastructure by being a loner. Because when you
Mhm.
become a loner, that puts you in alignment to where you become a leader and not a follower. So I don't hang out with a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? Because I believe in energy transfer. You hang out with 5 bums, you're gonna be the 6th one. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? So it's one of those things where I always did my own thing. I just don't do what other people do. You know what I'm saying? Like I just the way I grew up. That's the way I was socialized growing up as a child. You know what I'm saying? Like I grew up with my dad. You know what I'm saying? So
Right. Do you feel like hot showers are bad?
uh it depends.
Okay. Okay.
It depends. Like, and the reason I say it depends because when you take a hot shower, especially like with the water and everything being compromised, hot water has the ability to cause the expansion of the skin cells to open up until now you're receiving all that poisonous water and it's going in your skin. So cold showers is actually more of a healing modality. So if you take cold showers after you work out, it'll help you peel off a lot more calories and fat. Also, you ever heard of cryotherapy?
No, I heard of hydrotherapy where you go from cold hot, but not what is that?
Cryotherapy is when you just like sit in like a little, it's like a little incubator and it freezes the body up a little bit. You actually
Ooh,
extract a lot more calories doing that than if the body was heated up during a workout.
wow.
Yep. So it's a, what I'm saying, it's one of those things where it's kind of like you got to mess with it. You got to tweak it a little bit.
Yeah.
You know. Yep. Because it's also connected to chronokinesis, because where you able to manipulate and freeze time. Because if you pay attention to people, like the movie Avatar, when he froze himself for 100. He didn't freeze himself. He got froze for 100 years. He looked just like the same person he was 100 years ago. He was a little boy. So the same
Wow.
thing actually takes place with the body. It basically regenerates the cells.
Mm,
Yep.
that's a crazy process.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna
So I,
answer
I,
some.
so I think so I think so I think these extraterrestrial species, they actually use probably like the code and stuff for they use cryotherapy for for genetical self-preservation. They didn't use it for, I'm going to use the cold weather to subjugate the spiritual energy of the planet. You know what I'm saying? That by way of HARP and weather modification. But I think that they actually did it on a micro level when you're talking about healing the body. They only used it for healing purposes. As
Mm,
far as like code, that's just my opinion.
I realized because you ever heard of human design?
Who?
Human. It's called human design.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was like projectors, generators, and all that.
Okay.
Yeah. But certain, if you look into human design, it will tell you the actual type of foods you should eat. And some people are not supposed to eat cold foods, and some people are supposed to eat cold foods.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, my body, I'm not supposed to eat cold foods. I'm supposed to eat hot foods. That's why I always have like teas, soups. I might go to like like tassili's. I might get something like that's cold, but I might get something hot though. Anything cold does make me weaker. And that's what I realized. Yeah, because it'll tell you that your blood, it'll tell you what temperature your blood is. So if your blood is cold, you need hot foods. If your blood is hot, you need cold foods to offset that balance.
See, I'm warm. My body is usually warm all the time. Like
Okay,
anybody,
you probably need more juice, like juices and smoothies.
my body is real hot. It can be cold outside. You can still feel my body is real hot. That's how you know that people. It's in one of Dr. York's publications. That's how you're able to delineate if a person has a soul or not. Feel their hands. You know what I'm saying? If it's hot and their hands is cold or whatever, like my body is always hot. It's hot. Like I'm not like sweating or I'm not sick or nothing, but that's just the thermal check. Like I said, that's what non-ether is. Electrical energy, thermodynamics, hydrodynamics, electromagnetic radiation, and resonant energy. So the thermodynamics is where the heating of the body, heating up the body by way of the carbon activation. So that's how you know if a person has a soul or not.
Yeah, and also can't you also tell mentally? You could just read them by the top of in their eyes. If you look in their eyes, you see like a glass. You don't really see too much soul, too much of like you know how people with a soul have an inner dialogue. If you don't just see that inner dialogue inside of them, there's something no one's home.
Yeah. Another thing, to where you're able to decipher if a person has a soul or not. You have 4 elements of the soul, which is thinking, reasoning, understanding, and willpower. Your willpower is your strength to get through certain things as far as like discipline. You know what I'm saying? You're able to think, meaning that you're able to comprehend what's going on. So where you're able to understand the dichotomy between good and evil. Understanding, you know what I'm saying, to where you understand a multitude of things that's connected to planet Earth. So it's like I said, when people don't have those 4 elements, that's how you know that they don't have a soul. Because your willpower is going to tell you get the will and get up and go do something with yourself. Go work out. You know what I'm saying? Go do something that's self-affirming or something that's constructive. That's how you know if a person has a soul or not. You got some people just man, I ain't doing nothing. I just want to smoke this loud and drink this lean, bro. I'm out here.
Yeah. You feel like black people. You feel like black or melanated people have souls? Like there are you feel like some of them don't have souls?
Yet some of them don't. I'm gonna tell you why. In the inception point, some of them did, but they lost their soul because they became acclimated to the patriarchal standpoints of a patrilineal system, meaning that they conform to the system. They conform to everything around them. That's when you lose your soul as a so-called melanated man and melanated woman.
So you could lose your soul. You could lose your soul right now.
Some people say you can't, some people say you don't. But I actually believe that because I've seen, best way I can explain it. How you ever seen, this doesn't, I'm saying, I'm not being, racist and nothing, this has nothing to do with, but this is the reality. How you ever seen a black woman who dated nothing but white guys? Pay attention to her greater hair. Pay attention to her genetics. Pay attention to the way that she acts. Everything becomes compromised. She's no longer her. I ain't talking about the voice, but she's no longer her authentic self. She becomes artificial because some of those women, they start wearing contacts. They start wearing blonde weave. You know what I'm saying? You basically become something that you're not. That you're not basically, because you're taking up on the energetic frequency of a race that you're basically trying to please in a form of relationships. So you're basically seeking approval to where you're not even thinking about yourself. You become anti-yourself because you're showing credence to another race. That's what an antichrist is. You anti-yourself. You anti-yourself, you lose your soul. You don't believe in yourself no more. You're not even tapped in to your true culture. you don't even want to tap into that energy. So a lot of times, it can, a lot of that energy, when it comes from women dealing with that type of energy, a lot of that stuff stems from childhood, because they probably grew up without a father. So now she resents black men to where she got to date other races of people in order to combat the lack thereof.
Right.
So that's where you got to tap into doing your shadow work. When you do your shadow work, that's when you subjugate the trauma, the inception that was cultivated in the inception of your childhood. So a lot of people's problems, and they lose their soul just based on the traumatic experiences that they had when they was a little child. Because, like I said, you become a product of your environment. So in order to get people, acclimated to the energy of the soul, you got to fix